Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Cordoba. I'm so excited to read to you today chapter 2 in our book, The Night at Dawn. In chapter 1, Jack and Annie went back into the Frog Creek woods, and what did they see? They saw the treehouse. And who went up in the treehouse? It must have been Annie, because Jack said she disappeared and he was alone in the dark. So she must have gone up there in the treehouse. Let's read to find out what happens in chapter 2. But before we read, let's talk about what we're going to think about as we're reading. Good readers, when they listen to a story, they think about the characters in the story, and they think about character empathy. Character empathy means you're thinking about how the characters feel in the story. So sometimes the characters in the story might feel happy or excited. Sometimes they might feel sad or disappointed. They might be angry. They might be surprised or scared. Characters feel different ways, and there are lots of clues inside the chapter that tell us how the characters are feeling. So we're going to be thinking in this chapter about how Jack and Annie are feeling and how we know that, just like the boy and girl in reading this book are. So I'm going to put our character empathy poster up here so we can remember to think about how Jack and Annie are feeling. Chapter 2 is called Leaving Again. Where do you think they're going to go? Let's read to find out. "No one's here," Annie shouted down. Jack thought about going home. Then he thought about all of those books in the treehouse. What does Jack love? Jack loves books. He started up the ladder. When he was nearly to the treehouse, he saw a light in the distant sky. Dawn was starting to break. Remember, it was nighttime? What is dawn? If the light is starting to come up, is dawn at night or in the morning? Dawn is the morning. The sun is starting to rise. He can see it happening. He crawled through a hole in the floor and took off his backpack. It was dark inside the treehouse. Annie was shining her flashlight on the books scattered about. Can you visualize all those books? Jack must be feeling, when he sees those books, he must be feeling what? Probably happy or excited because he loves books. "They're still here," Annie said. She stopped the light on the dinosaur book. It was the book that had taken them to the time of dinosaurs. "Remember the Tyrannosaurus?" said Annie. Jack shuddered. Of course he remembered. How could anyone forget seeing a real live Tyrannosaurus Rex? The light fell on a book about Pennsylvania. A red silk bookmark stuck out of it. "Remember the picture of Frog Creek?" said Annie. "Of course," said Jack. "That was the picture that had brought them home." "There's my favorite," said Annie. The light was shining on a book about knights and castles. There was a blue leather bookmark in it. Annie turned to the page with the bookmark. There was a picture of a knight on a black horse. He was riding toward a castle. "Annie, close that book," said Jack. "I know what you're thinking." Annie pointed at the knight. "Don't, Annie!" Do you think Jack wants to go to the time of knights and castles, medieval England? It sounds to me like he does not want to go. He's saying, "Don't, Annie." But does Annie want to go? She sure does. "We wish we could see this guy for real," said Annie. "No, we don't," shouted Jack. They heard a strange sound. Neigh! What animal was that? It sounded like a horse neighing. They both went to the window. Annie shined the flashlight down on the ground. "Oh no," whispered Jack. "A knight," said Annie. How do you think Annie's feeling? I think she's feeling super excited. She saw a knight. A knight in shining armor, riding a black horse through the Frog Creek woods. Then the wind began to moan. The leaves began to tremble. It was happening again. We're leaving, cried Annie. Get down. The wind moaned louder. The leaves shook harder, and the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Remember those spirals we drew in graphics practice last week? It's like that. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Jack opened his eyes. He shivered. The air was damp and cool. The sound of the horse's whinny came again from below. Nay! I think we're here, whispered Annie. She was still holding the castle book. Jack peeked out the window. A huge castle was looming in the distance. Oh, I love that picture. Look at that. Do you see it out the window? He looked around. The tree house was in a different oak tree, and down below, the knight on the black horse was riding by. We can't stay here, said Jack. We have to go home and make a plan first. He picked up the book about Pennsylvania. He opened it to the page with the red silk bookmark. He pointed to the photograph of the Frog Creek woods. I wish, no, said Annie. She yanked the book away from him. Let's stay. I want to visit a castle. You're nuts. We have to examine the situation, said Jack, from home. Let's examine it here, said Annie. Come on. He held out his hand. Give it. Okay, so who wants to go home and think about what they're going to do before they do it? Jack does. He's not feeling so good, I can tell, about being there. He says he wants to go home, but who wants to stay? Annie wants to stay. Let's see what they do. Annie gave Jack the book. Okay, you can go home. I'm staying, she said. She clipped the flashlight onto her belt. Wait, said Jack. I'm going to take a peek, a teeny peek, she said, and she scooted down the ladder. Jack groaned. Ugh, okay, she had won. He couldn't leave without her. Besides, he sort of wanted to take a peek himself. He put down the book about Pennsylvania. He dropped the castle book into his backpack. He stepped onto the ladder, and he headed down into the cool, misty air. And that's the end of the chapter. So we definitely were thinking about how Jack and Annie were feeling a little bit different than each other about going to see the castle. We said Annie wanted to go see the castle. She was excited and curious, wanting to know more. How did Jack feel about going to the castle? He thinks they should make a plan first, he said. That tells me he's not feeling so good about going to the castle. But Annie got her way. They're gonna go see what's going on. For my story timeline card for today, I drew a picture of the castle because I thought that was super important. Jack and Annie were in the treehouse. It was spinning.